Hey guys, welcome back. I know it's been a couple weeks since my last video upload, and actually this is not the video I intended to upload next. The next video I was intending to upload was a Jeep video from my trip to Chocoloco Mountain in Alabama, but the video is pretty much put together and ready. However, the music I was going to use for it is not available. I had bought some royalty-free music to add to the video kind of as a filler as you watch the clips, but I did not receive what I purchased, so I'm in the works of getting either my money back or the product I purchased. That's like I said, that's still in the works. But as you can see, this video is actually part 2 of my Kingdom Come game review. This part is going to be about the history, the story, and the realistic aspects as to why Warhorse Studios wanted to add them into the game. But before I get into that, I just want to touch up on the combat a little bit more. One of the things I noticed that I forgot to mention in my previous video is knowing when your enemy is about to die. As you can see in this clip, I'm fighting on a bunch of humans, and to the left of my health bar, which is the red bar, you see a purple bar, and in that purple bar is the health of the humans, or bandits, or whoever you're fighting at the time. That is one way you can know when your enemy is actually about to die. Some other things that I actually learned from playing, not that I missed in the previous videos, I just learned more as I've gone on from either my viewers giving me hints on how to fight or just learning by doing, is my combat seemed a little clunky and frantic in the previous videos and some of my streams. And it has a lot to do with how I handled it. Like I said in the other video, there's combos you can do, and there's different techniques you can use, different weapons and different armor, and basically different loadouts. And those who are Call of Duty or Battlefield fans, that would help you perform better in combat. However, one of the things I learned is, like you just saw right there, I locked swords with the human and I pushed him forward. You can either kick him forward or kind of shove him forward harder by clicking left on the mouse before he pushes you when you guys lock swords, or you can hit right click, which is not as far as a push. And when you do the further push, it's more like if you needed to run away real quick to heal up, or you want to draw your bow and shoot him to kind of drain his health a little bit before he comes back to you. But then you could also do the shorter push, which would be more for just so you can disorient him enough to get a couple hits in before he's able to block or strike back. Another thing I was able to learn, that as you level up in your warfare skills, you'll unlock perks that do things like scare guys away from you. For example, there was a group of bandits I was fighting that I was supposed to kill the bandit leader, but they all just took off running when I approached him, and it's because I had that perk activated. Here, I can't remember if I had the perk activated or not, but the Cumans are running from me, and it's not because they're afraid of me, it's because they're trying to kill that guard up there. So as you get higher in level and learn the mechanics of the game better, the combat will become much easier than it seems to be. I mean, it's not like gonna be a walk in the park, but like I said, you're a blacksmith's son, and combat is not something you're familiar with. You have to learn it by doing, as most people would do in the real world. But yeah, so those are just a couple things I learned or forgot to mention in the other video. And as I keep playing this game, I'm obviously going to run into more things that I didn't know about the combat, and probably give you more tips in each and every video. And along with, like in this video, we're going to talk about the history of the game and the story. I'm sure I'm going to have more to add to this in future videos too, because I am not anywhere near finishing the game. So stay tuned for more updates and that stuff, and maybe once I complete the game, I'll do a comprehensive combat tutorial kind of video kind of deal. But for now, we're going to go ahead and play a quick clip that introduces us to the story and the history behind Kingdom Come Deliverance. So if you just take a little time and bear with me, I will be right back with you guys.
Charles IV, King of Bohemia and Holy Roman Emperor, had a long and successful reign. The empire he ruled from Prague expanded, and his subjects lived in peace and prosperity. When the emperor died, the whole empire mourned. More than 7,000 people accompanied him on his last procession. The heir to the throne of the flourishing empire was Charles's son, Wenceslas IV, whose father had prepared him for this moment all his life. But Wenceslas did not take after his father. He neglected affairs of state for more frivolous pursuits. He even failed to turn up for his own coronation as emperor, which did little to endear him to the Pope. Wenceslas the Idle did not impress the imperial nobility either. His difficulties mounted until the nobles, exasperated by the inaction of their ruler, turned for help to his half-brother, King Sigismund of Hungary. Sigismund decided on a radical solution. He kidnapped the king to force him to abdicate, then took advantage of the ensuing disorder to gain greater power for himself. He invaded Bohemia with a massive army and began pillaging the territories of the king's allies. It is here that my story begins.
God bless. Same to you. Today's a scorcher.
Well, husband, how goes it?
Good. I should get it finished today. Where on earth is Henry? I need him to run some errands.
He was still sleeping when I went out.
At this hour? Blue-blooded idler.
Well, it looks like he was out all evening, drinking like a lord.
Go and get the lazy bones up then. Quick clout round the ear should do it.
Mm-hmm.
What a fantastic way for a developer to introduce the player into the history and culture of your game. What is the true foundation to Kingdom Come Deliverance? First, you have a narration of actual historical events that take place before the events of the game. by the character the player takes over to introduce himself, and then you do this beautiful flying over the fields and through the woods and mines and villages and castles to show off your artwork, your hard work, your your labor of love, basically. And you can tell the developers at Warhorse Studios took pride in this game just by that, just the introduction to the opening scene of the game. I'm talking about not the narration. Well, the narration by Henry, who is this character you see right here in this clip, talking to his mother, and who you'll take over. But the narration by him was excellent, getting you set up and geared up to understand why the events that are going to take place in this game did. But then the developers themselves took the time and effort to create this beautiful musical score as you fly over the landscape that is the 15th century Bohemia. And like I said, you can tell they take great pride in what they did, and it's something you don't really see these days anymore, especially in AAA games like Battlefield 5 and Fallout 76. You can tell that the developers behind those games didn't take a whole lot of pride in it, especially Fallout 76. Battlefield 5, maybe it's a bit of a stretch to say that. The game does look beautiful. They did try to make it immersive and to bring in the player, but if they truly took the pride they took in the game, they would showcase it a little better, in my opinion. I mean, to me, Battlefield 5 and Fallout 76, again, Fallout 76 more so, seems more of an attempt to get into the wallets of the player. And they without really caring what the player actually wants. Now, to say that Kingdom Come Deliverance actually cared what the player wants when they were originally thinking about the game when it come up, I don't know. But I can tell you this. I do know for a fact they take pride in their work and what they did. And it's very evident in how they handled the marketing of this game. From start with the Kickstarter through everything they went through with people who talk about the diversity issue, which we'll get into that a little more, to now where we're at. They were trying to make this game as a tool to talk about the history of 15th century Bohemia, which is now the modern-day Czech Republic. In fact, Daniel Varada, I'm probably butchering his name, so if by some miracle you're listening, Daniel, I apologize. I'm not very good at pronouncing names. I hardly speak English well most of the time. But anyway, there's times he was saying that he did this game because he loves castles, he loves history, and he didn't say anything about loving his country, but you could tell it's obvious that him and the fellow developers of Warhorse Studios do, because they wouldn't have put all the time and effort into this game like they have and gone through what they have to get to where they are now. He also went on to say he wanted this game to be like Braveheart was to the Scottish history and culture. He wanted this to be a way to introduce the rest of the world who probably knew little to nothing about the Czech Republic, or knows little to nothing about the Czech Republic, and little to nothing about the 15th century Bohemia, except for those who actually probably took the time and effort to study this history, or, because there's also people that have certain parts of history that they love, even if they're not college scholars or anything. Like me specifically, I like World War II and the Civil War time frame for study. Now, I'm not an expert, and I wouldn't be able to tell you every small detail about those two time periods, but I do enjoy learning about it. And even the people that would say that they're just enthusiasts about this time period may not know a whole lot about this area of Bohemia. And that's why Dan Varada, again, sorry if I'm butchering your name, and his team at Warhorse Studios wanted to make this game. And I think they knocked it out of the park so far. Now, like I said many times before, I am just beginning this game. I'm nowhere completing it. In fact, as I look at my Steam account now, I was going to say I only have so many hours of gameplay, but I actually have 75 hours of gameplay in this game. Now, that sounds like a lot because it is a lot. I've heard people say they can beat this game in about 80 hours or so if they just kind of rush through it, but I've been taking my time to actually get myself fully immersed in this game because of all the not just because of all the hard work that the team at Warhorse Studios put into it, but because of how much I've enjoyed exploring this world that I never knew about. Now that isn't to go without saying that this game does not have its issues or bugs, just like Battlefield 5 and Fallout 76 have. In fact, right now, the last time I played this game, I'm currently stuck on my horse and I cannot get off because I rode my horse in my stable. You know, trying to be nice and get immersed in the world. People don't leave their horses out in the open. They usually put them in the stable. But now I'm stuck and I can't get off. Chances are I'm probably going to have to reload my game and start and go back to my last save. But it is what it is. But another thing is, like, they are actively trying to fix these bugs. And this game on release was full of them. And that further shows how much they love their basically their work of art. And this game is just that. Like I said, you play the character Henry, and you pick off right at the end of King Wenceslas being kidnapped and King Sigismund of Hungary coming in to raid Bohemia. Now, the reason why King Wenceslas is where he's at, you already heard in the opening title, but you also hear that, and like I said, like they said, or Henry said for that matter, that he was considered the idler king. And he also said that he wasn't very popular with his nobles. And they're actually the ones that turned to King Sigismund to kidnap him in the first place. Now, originally, and the game might say this in the codexes, I haven't read all of them yet. And I actually probably do a video as I read them. But originally, King Sigismund kidnapped him to take him to Rome for his coronation to be crowned the Holy Roman Emperor. At some point on his way to Rome, however, King Sigismund had somebody that was trying to interfere because they did not want him to take King Wenceslas there. And then it's at that point King Sigismund actually has King Wenceslas in prison. And it happens for a time, I believe this is through the period of 1402, which is the year just before where this game starts up from. And it's at that point King Sigismund decides, you know what, let's make an agreement. King Wenceslas, you renounce your throne and give up your power to me and some dukes of Austria, and we'll, kind of make your stay in prison a little more comfortable. I mean, I'm kind of putting like the layman's way of how the story goes, and Wenceslas did that because obviously nobody likes prison, and if he can make life in prison easier, he's gonna do that.
He's got noble blood in his veins.
At this time, Sigismund took an opportunity that he saw that was actually presented to him through his own doing, and not only just take the power that his brother gave to him and to the other nobles, but also try to go for more. It's at this point he decided to invade Bohemia, which again the intro video covers all of this, but they kind of just brush over it, and you find out that he's doing it to impose. As he invaded, he imposed taxes, he looted the land, and he was hunting down all the nobility that was loyal to his half brother Wenceslas, with the sole goal of eventually becoming the true king of Bohemia. Obviously, this was unpopular against the dukes of Austria that also had some of Wenceslas's power, but Sigismund didn't care. It was this invasion that leads us to Henry, which we've already talked about Henry. He's just an average man, and a lot of people find this interesting about this game is that Henry is not some like hero, already known hero who's an excellent swordsman or archer. He's not above average. He's just a regular boy living with his mom and dad, and his dad, whose name is Martin, is a blacksmith. This blacksmith actually has a past that Henry is not aware of, and he finds this out later.
How did you know about
kind of, but never got a chance to actually find out the whole story, at least yet. I mean, it might pop up again as I play through this game. I haven't heard anything more of his dad's past. And the fact that he's more than just a blacksmith. He actually knows how to handle a sword. He's obviously had
why did you attack Merlin?
kind of a violent past that he's trying to keep his son away. Brother, excuse me, I meant son. Because he doesn't want to see his son living the same life as him.
So he's planning more raids.
Is trying to teach his son to resolve conflicts by
Was only the start.
other means other than violence, except his son seems to already heading down that path with getting in drunken bar fights and wanting to pick up the sword and learn how to use it. But Martin doesn't want him to do any of this. When we find this pass out about Martin is when Lord Ratzig of Skalitz comes by to pay his dad a visit. His dad is currently working on a sword for Lord Ratzig, and actually the game starts off with you running errands to help your dad complete this sword. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Which another difference, or distinctive difference from this RPG amongst others is that not only are you just a regular person living in a town that nobody really knows who you are, and they don't find out who you are for a while, is that you're not thrown in the stereotypical training missions where you're sent off to fight random things, to learn the combat mechanics, and you're not doing a bunch of leveling quests. I mean, there are levels in this game, but it's not leveling like you would think of any other RPG. But we'll get to that in another video. What you are doing, actually, instead, is running errands for your father. The first errand you can do it in any order you want. The one I end up doing first is going to try to visit a man in town that has paid his father to make him some hammers, I believe an axe, and nails. And your father wants you to go into town to either get those nails back, hammer, nails, and axe back, or get the man to pay, because the man has not paid his father, at least not in full yet. Needless to say, the man is kind of resentful for this. Apparently he's going through hard times and has no intentions of paying back Henry's dad anytime soon. Now, depending how you handle the situation, you can either avoid a fight and trying to find another means to get either the material or the money from him, or you're going to end up in a fist fight, which you can win if you play through the game. When I did it, I did not. I don't think I won. I think I had to run away. I can't remember. So that's your first taste of combat, and the combat, if you will, in the game. It's more just fist fighting. To further show how ordinary Henry is, he's got a girlfriend who's a barmaid, and that is another one. Part of the quest that your dad has sent you on is to go pick up some ale from his girlfriend, Bianca, who's just an ordinary girl, just like Henry. And you pay her a visit, and she introduces you to the game's saving mechanic, which is Savior Schnapps. And it's supposed to be Henry's favorite drink. And that drink, every time you drink it, saves the game for you. It also gets you a little drunk. So if you've already had some alcohol, you're just adding to your drunkenness. And it does affect you in the game. I've actually had one point where I got myself pretty drunk in combat, trying to keep myself alive. And I was swaying back and forth, side to side, burping, having blurred vision. It was an interesting experience, to say the least. But anyway, that leads you to running into your friends Fritz, and I can't remember his other friend. And they're listening to a guy named Dutch complain, and basically speak heresy against the king. And he's actually not of Bohemia. I think he's supposed to be German, if I remember correctly, hence the name Dutch. And so his friends decided they want to teach Dutch a lesson, and his newly whitewashed house was going to be covered in crap. I mean, literally crap. They picked up handfuls of crap and threw it at the house. Now, this led to your second experience into combat, if you want to call this, where you get into a fist fight with Dutch and his friends, until the catchpole shows up and everybody has to take off and run before you end up in prison. So, long story short, you can either break into the house on your own, try to steal the stuff from the guy that owes your dad money, or you can beat him up and take it from him with your friends, or you can get a friend of yours to give you a lockpick and you just wait for the right moment, and I guess the same thing as what I said, pick the lock and get in. But like I said, this is just further showing that Henry is just a normal person. There's nothing special about him. He's just an everyday young man going through life, getting into trouble, hanging out with his friends, getting drunk, meeting up with his girlfriend, and helping his dad with the business. Because his dad's goal, as most dads, is to pass the business on to his son. So he wants his son to stop messing around with these friends, stop getting into trouble, worrying about sword fighting and leaving Skalitz. He wants his dad to focus on becoming a blacksmith. But the difference between most stories that usually has this father-son kind of relationship is Henry actually loves and respects his father. And though he would like to do things other than become a blacksmith, he still takes to what his dad has to say to the heart. In fact, in the beginning, the first time we see Henry, he's actually asking his mom if his dad is mad with him. And his mom basically telling him, no, he's not mad with you yet, but if you keep this up, he will be. And you can tell that Henry's concerned about this. But as we get through this, like I said, Lord Radzig, or Sir Radzig, whatever you want to call him, they call him both in the game, comes to visit and picks up the sword. His dad makes this beautiful looking sword. Kind of wish it was a real sword. I wouldn't mind picking it up myself. But anyway, and compliments him for his hard work. And this is where Henry learns this, gets a little hint into his father's past. And Lord Radzig kind of encourages Henry by handing Henry his sword and telling him to give it a try. And obviously, this is again where you find out Henry is not this ultimate hero like most RPGs have. He picks up the sword, can barely hold it, and takes a whack at his stick, and he doesn't even nick it. He just knocks it over. Whereas Lord Radzig, when he took a swing at it, he cut it in half. And this is another thing that makes Henry more relatable. His relationship with his family is a touching one, which makes you get more invested and involved with the story. So while what's about to happen makes it sadder and more emotional, gets you more emotionally involved with the story. So after Lord Radzig pays him a visit, it's not long after that where Henry's trying to probe his dad about his past, but they kind of get interrupted because King Zingamenzin showed up with his Hungarian fort military and his Cuman mercenaries, which the Cumans are Turkic. I think it's not Turkish, but a Turkic, if I remember correctly, is what they're called. Tribe. They're kind of nomadic, and they were known for being hired for jobs like this to attack Skalitz. And the sole purpose he's after Skalitz, from what I understand from reading so far, is to get Lord Radzig, because Lord Radzig is a supporter. It's at this point where Henry's story truly begins. And one thing I forgot to mention is that you, as the player, truly become Henry, and it's because of the dedication and the attention to detail the developers at Kingdom Come Deliverance, Warhorse Studios, put into this game. You actually feel invested, even at this point, the short, maybe 10-15 minutes of playing this game, you're already invested in the life that is Henry, because the story is so beautifully told, and the acting, the voice acting is just incredible. Well, it's not incredible, but it's good enough to makes you actually feel a part of Henry's life. You feel like you're no good. You're not going to amount to a whole lot except blacksmith's sons, and you want to do with more of your life. You want to leave Skalitz and see the rest of the world, but you know you can't do this with the skills and traits you have. That's why you want to pick up the sword and learn. But unfortunately, it's also at this point where Henry gets an awakening moment that he's not ready to be out on his own. He's not ready to pick up a sword and leave Skalitz. It's at this point when Henry sees his parents as the hordes of Hungarian military and Cuman mercenaries rain down onto his small little quaint town, killing everybody in sight, to include his mother and father, which they do very brutally in front of Henry. Henry wants to help his parents, but you can see his hesitation in his face, because he realizes he has no skill or ability to help his parents, and if he went to help, all he would do is ensure that he himself would be killed. And it's a hard decision. He had an opportunity to go inside the castle, but instead ran back to help his father, just to be there when it's too late and see his father and mother killed. In fact, as one other YouTuber said, and I'll have to be sure to credit him in this video, so I'll leave a link down in the description and annotate his name at some point. The first actual story mission in the game is called Run, because that's all you are supposed to do. You are not to turn and fight, because you will lose. Though you have your father's sword that he's making for Lord Radzig, you are going to lose. You're not going to win. You can try and try and try again, but you will not succeed. Even on your way out, there's a woman named Teresa that you have the option to save. You don't have to save, but you have the option to. I personally chose to, and I'm glad I did so far. It's paid off quite well. I don't know what would happen if I didn't save her. I haven't seen anybody not save her yet, and I haven't played through a second time. But because of her, I meet her uncle Peshik, who teaches me thievery. So if you guys are into thieving, you might want to save Teresa. I'm not sure if you would still run into Peshik or not if you fail to save Teresa. I'm not positive, but I do know basically what I had to do is run into the Cumans attacking her to push them over, and then I had to quickly get on a horse and run because these Cumans are the top notch. Even now when I run into them, I still pick and choose if I want to fight them. They're not easy to fight, and I've already played. Like I said, I put 75 hours into this game, and I've learned the mechanics of combat easy already. And as somebody said, and it might be the same YouTuber I'm referring, the combat in Kingdom Come Deliverance is somewhat easy to learn, but it's not easy to master. It's actually quite difficult to master. You actually feel like you're a blacksmith's son learning how to sword fight for the very first time or draw a bow, because as you first launch your arrows, you see how pathetic it is. The arrows fall short. They're nowhere near their mark. You don't have an aiming reticle when you fight. Have you seen in my videos? And I don't remember if I mentioned that in the last video or not. It's these little details that make you feel truly immersed in the game. And like I said, after you save Teresa, you quickly get on the horse to run. You don't turn around to fight like most other RPGs would have you do. You run because you are not the hero yet. At least not what the game wants you to be. You'll eventually become the hero depending on the choices you make as you go through the game. But as of right now, you are nowhere near being the hero. Even I myself had died, I can't remember, so many times that I actually got mad at the game. And I thought this is the dumbest mechanic that the game ever had. But, I say that almost in like any game I get mad at. Watch me play any first-person shooter and you'll hear me say how stupid the game it is and how much I hate it. But now, looking back in hindsight, that was the point of the developers. They want you to truly feel like you're Henry, running for his life, knowing that there's nothing you can do to stop these Cumans. So all you have to do is run, and you're running to Talmberg to find Lord Divish to warn him of the coming forces, so he can himself prepare. Because at this point, they're not entirely sure who Sigmund's going to attack. All they know is he's here to invade Bohemia and take what his brother had. Like I said, he's hunting nobles that were loyal to Wenceslaus, and I don't know if they made it clear that if Lord Divish was loyal to Wenceslaus. From what I'm getting from him, he's kind of impartial, and all he really worries about is the care and treatment of his own people. But Lord Radzig, on the other hand, they make clear on many occasions that he himself is loyal to King Wenceslaus, and he does have a relationship with Lord Divish, because at one point Lord Divish actually defends Radzig, or at least buys him some time because the Cumans the Cuman and Hungarian military is still hunting him after they reach Talmberg. In fact, that's what they're there for. They actually want nothing to do with Talmberg unless Lord Radzig's there, and they assume he would be there. But Lord Divish essentially lies and tells them there's not. But this is, like I said, this is where Henry's life truly begins. It makes a turn for the better. He ends up getting in with, the nobles are taking him in, protecting him. Lord Divish protects him because of Lord Radzig, because Lord Radzig took a liking to Henry. I don't know if this liking, how his respect or desire to take Henry in is because of a long relationship with Henry. They don't really make that clear in the game. If they did, I missed it. But more so for the respect of his father. And I think he saw something in Henry at the moment where they meet to check on the status of his sword. So he takes Henry in, and because of this, Lord Divish takes him in. And at this point in the story, Henry is so distraught and he's stubborn. And this is how I can relate to him. I'm incredibly stubborn. He knows Skalitz is burned to the ground. He knows there are dangerous forces outside the walls of Talmberg, but he's still determined to go back to Skalitz to bury his family, because he knows his family is laying in the streets, rotting in the mud and the blood and the rain. And he doesn't want that for his family. He wants his father to have the burial he's always wanted, and he wants to bury his mother. Lord Divish, obviously, with good reason, discourages him from doing this because of what the opposing forces have done to the outlying lands and what they've done to Skalitz. And he knows that if he goes back out there, he's at risk of running into them again and being killed. Nonetheless, like I said, Henry's stubborn and he tries to find a way out. So he takes his father's sword, and one of your next big mission is to escape Talmberg, essentially. And there's different ways you do it. There's apparently a cheating way. There's a little bridge between the castle and kind of like the ramparts, if you will, of Talmberg, that you could easily jump off and just make a run for it. But what fun is in that? You want to be able to be Henry trying to sneak his way out, like actually do the story. So it's at this point when he finally makes it to Skalitz, he loses his sword and fails. And he succeeds at burying his family, but the reason why he lost the sword that was meant for Lord Ratzig is because he runs into a bandit leader who literally beats the crap out of him. And the only reason why he's saved is what goes around comes around. Teresa saves him. She was able to find Henry and lead Lord Divish's forces to Henry because they eventually found out he ran off, and they knew if they didn't do anything, he was going to die. And the forces of Lord and the army that Lord Divish, or the men that Lord Divish brought along, scared off the bandits. This is again another relatable moment with Henry, where you know he's basically a nobody. He's distraught for many reasons that he lost the sword. The last project his father that he loved very much was working on. Not only that, he felt a sense of obligation to Lord Ratzig, and that he let Lord Ratzig down, that he lost the sword. And Lord Ratzig kind of lets on that he doesn't really care. He's just glad Henry's alive, but he respects his sense of honor and nobility, that he owes it to Lord Ratzig and his father to find that sword and retrieve it. In fact, it's one of the main driving forces for Henry. But again, the more missions you take on, you find out that Henry is just a nobody. You go from nobody really acknowledging you, going through the towns of 15th century Bohemia. You go through Ratai, you go through Talmberg, you go through, well, nobody's in Scouts anymore except bandits and Cumans. But as you go through these areas, nobody knows who you are until you really get truly involved and start doing different jobs for the lords. You end up running into Lord Hanish, and he takes you under his wing because of Lord Ratzig, and you start doing jobs for him to earn his respect. In fact, there's I can't remember, for some reason it's slipping me. There's a captain that serves under Lord Hanish that actually absolutely hates Henry, and then Lord Hanish's nephew, I believe, is who he is, who's supposed to be the true heir of Ratai, the throne of Ratai, but is currently being mentored by Lord Hanish. Doesn't like Henry either, and you have to do different jobs. You can either continue to piss these people off and give them more reason to hate you, or continue to earn their trust and become one of them, to basically become their friends. And you form friendships and notability everywhere you go. People go from not knowing who you are to saying, hey, look, Henry's come to visit us. You like people have said, become Henry. For all purposes, you're Henry. You're this young lad that knows nothing about the world outside the walls of Skalitz, who lost everything he had. All he knew was the traits his dad was teaching him as a blacksmith's son, and then the rough fighting he got in with his friends at the bar when they got too drunk, or the mischief they got into, to now a man who's on his way to become a knight, essentially. Whether or not he does, I'm not sure. I haven't made it that far, so if any of you have already beaten the game, do not ruin this for me. No spoilers in the comments. If you spoil it in the comments, it means you're going to ruin it for everybody else, because that means I'm just going to stop reading the comments until I beat the game. So keep that in mind. And now, as I said, I'm probably going to get trolled and people are going to spoil it like crazy. But anyway, enough about that. One of the main reasons why, and well, again, we're going to go into more detail about this in another video, and I promise the videos on this game will be shorter after this point. This video just, I feel, it has a whole lot more to cover in it than videos I've done in the past. Is the realism. It is the time period realism that they tried so hard to achieve in this game. They hired scholars to make sure they're being as accurate as possible. I mean, these people grew up in the Czech Republic, and I know they've had some teachings in their history as they've grown up, but nobody's a scholar, obviously. I mean, I've been taught the Revolutionary War, Civil War, the colonizing America, the Cold War, and all these different events, all these different events that took place in the United States, that I'm no expert on them by any means. And I'm sure if I try to quote something that I think I know, somebody who actually studied it and became a scholar in the matter will be like, you clearly don't know what you're talking about. Like, if I start talking about the civil rights movement, I guarantee there's several things will be missing, because my education on that is high school level. Now, some countries do far better at teaching their children these things than ours, but I'll get to that in my controversies portion of this video. But they tried because they loved the work they were doing. This is their baby. They were going to do it. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it right. And they continue to prove this by fixing, like, the bugs I mentioned in the beginning of this game. And I'm sure the bugs you guys have heard other YouTubers have talked about. These bugs are still there, but they're constantly being worked on. They're trying everything they can to make this a better game. And it is actually, I think, a strong competitor against AAA games, if you ask me. They spent so much time to make sure the buildings are accurate, the locations are accurate. A lot of them are still standing. Like, there's a church being built in Sasau, and there is actually pictures on the internet of this church still standing today, and I believe it's still even in use. They took effort to make sure all the people were where they're supposed to be. The clothes and armor and swords and weaponry match. You have to do things that eating period food and sleeping in what sleeping quarters these people would have slept in if you were there during their time. And they made sure they did to nail these things as much as possible to a T, so that you can be fully immersed in this world and become Henry. I feel tied to Henry, and this is not me just blowing smoke out my butt, but I'm excited to play as Henry, to see where his story is going to take me next. I want to see 15th century Bohemia through Henry's eyes, and the immersion that topped with the graphics and the music, the beautiful music. The lighting in this game is some of the best lighting I've seen in a long time. Yeah, there's some things left to be desired, but again, this is not a AAA game, and it wasn't. This was a third-party game that is built on AAA levels, if you ask me. And they knocked it out of the park better than most AAA games. And it's astounding and amazing, and I think they need to be credited for all the hard work they did. Now, the final part of this video before I wrap it up and sum it up, and I know I kind of hinted at this in my combat video, but I kind of want to go over it again. I thought I was going to go in real depth. Honestly, I could probably talk for hours on it, but I'm not going to, because I read actually Warhorse's policy on using their game in videos and streams, and they asked us to avoid anything controversial or offensive when using their videos, so I'm going to respect that. But I'm not going to completely ignore it. I still want to talk about it briefly. I just won't go into too much detail. And I think you all know what I'm talking about. It's kind of old. It's probably done and over with. But I want to, I'm like everybody else on the internet. I want to give my 2 cents worth. And I actually, like I always say in all of my videos, I want to hear what you guys think about this video, and especially this part. And you guys probably already know what I'm talking about. It's the lack of diversity that a lot of people cried for, and some even cried for about the treatment of women in this game. When they don't understand that during this time period, women did not have the status and luxuries like the women do today. But let's not go down that nasty road. But now I'm just going to use this one example, because like I said, I don't want to get into too much detail, of a Reddit post that I found. It was titled Lack of Diversity. I'll have a link in the description. I can't tell if this is a troll post, just something satire, just to mock everybody else that has an issue with this, or maybe even just to see who they can piss off by making this statement. But I'm going to use an example nonetheless, because it sums up I just watched this video of me trying to hit this rabbit with an arrow, and it was embarrassingly retarded. I'm still not that great with the bow. That's another realistic aspect. You don't have sights or crosshairs to show you how to aim with a bow, which I appreciate. But anyway, but yeah, this Reddit post sums up what I've read and seen other people say about this game, and some people are still saying about this game, and it just baffles my mind and blows my mind. But I'll go ahead and read the post and continue on my thoughts. In the poster said, "This game is so disappointing. I've watched like 5 hours of gameplay, and I haven't seen a single person of color, gender diverse character, non-heterosexual character, or even something as simple as a woman in a position of power." Well, let me go ahead and stop you there. Lady Stephanie, she's technically in a position of power. Maybe not the most powerful position in the game, and she will not be in the most powerful position in the game because women didn't have positions of power. And her power is more of status than actual power. I mean, not saying status can't give you power, but she commands a certain amount of respect. And if you don't pay that amount of respect to her, in theory, she could punish you. I don't think you can disrespect her in the game, but I'm just saying, a woman of her position, if she was disrespected by somebody like Henry would be in a world of hurt. But she doesn't obviously govern the land. She doesn't make decisions of the country or the town of Talmberg. She's more of like a figure for a symbol of status, if anything. And I know some people still have problems with that. But anyway, to say that there's no women of power is wrong. And if they watch 5 hours of gameplay, unless they picked up after the whole raid on Scouts, then they would have seen that. But they might have missed it if they just started watching a random stream or YouTube video at some point. But then they go on and say, instead of always being represented as servants of or housewives. I hate to break it to you, that's all women really were during this time period. It sucks, but that's history. You're not going to change history. Please don't even attempt to rewrite history. I know a lot of people are, and it drives me up the wall. Anyway, it's so disappointing for a game made in 2018. No, it's not, because one, yes, this game is made in 2018, but it's based in 1403. You got to get off your high horse and actually do some research into history before you make comments like that. And then the poster goes on to say, people say my historical accuracy, in quotation marks, and stuff, having a diverse representation of characters is more important than historical accuracy. Surprise, which I'm not really sure what they're saying. I think they meant to say is not more than important than historical accuracy, or they're just throwing their 2 cents in worth. It's just the way they wrote it. I don't know. But anyway, surprise, people of color and LGBT people existed in medieval times. Medieval Europe. Maybe lesbians, gays, and bisexuals. I don't know about transgender people, but whatever. I mean, I'm not gonna go and say they didn't exist ever during that time period, but I'm also not gonna say they existed either. But it's a bit of a stretch. And I love the example, the reasoning why they say LGBTs existed, because the statement has absolutely nothing to do with LGBTs, especially since Africans and Asians had successful civilizations way before white people did. What? The only statement and the only way that applies to is where your first part of that statement where you said people of color existed in medieval Europe. Parts of medieval Europe. And the examples I was able to find on the internet talked about areas near Spain, Turkey, and Italy, which would make sense because of the Roman Empire. Actually, like the actual Romans, not the Holy Roman Empire, the actual Romans would have brought slaves all over that region. I don't know. I'm not a Roman historian, so I don't know if they ever made it as far as the Czech Republic, or Bohemia. And the examples that were given were different groups that they stayed in those regions. And yeah, they might have gotten close, but the area, I think it was like 3.5 square miles is what this game covers of actual ground in actual Bohemia. To say that they were in this area, the top leading historians that Warhorse Studios hired to build this game, or help them write the history of this game, or fill out the lore of the game, I should say, because the history is already written. They just used it as their lore. Made sure they kept us as historically accurate, and all those historians are saying that it is next to impossible for there to be people of color in this region. Now, again, it's not impossible, but it's next to impossible. But this is the issue, and so I'm going to go ahead and finish up with this post, and I'll finish what I'm saying, because I don't want to dwell too much on this. And this statement is actually scary. It should be mandatory to have a certain amount of LGBT and racially diverse characters in modern games to promote tolerance and inclusiveness, and the devs should take this on board. No. Should not, unless the dev is coming out and saying that they're the next Hitler and they want to eradicate a race because of whatever reason, then they should not be limited on how they write their games. Unless they're taking a no doubt stance as a racist radical, or not even radical, if they're actually no crap throwing racist crap in the game, they should not be held accountable for that. If they want to have a game that has mainly white people and men and all that in it, then let them do it. It's not because they're sexist, it's not because they're racist. Maybe for whatever reason the lore of the game calls for that kind of demographic. It's just like, I mean, it's probably not a way to compare it, but it's just like this whole affirmative action law that we have for companies that have to hire so many people of color, so many people of a sexual orientation, so many people of a certain gender. And you know, I disagree with that. No, I do agree that companies should not be allowed to discriminate and not hire somebody because they fall into certain categories that whatever the company feels doesn't fit their views. A company should not be allowed to turn somebody away because they're a woman, man, or they're black or Hispanic or gay or any of that. No, the company should not be allowed to do that. However, the company should not be forced to hire so many in a year to be able to get, I guess it's like a tax break, or, but they get something out of it, or they don't get punished or fined. The company needs to hire people that are capable and qualified to do the job, and that's I'm not saying certain characters are qualified and more capable to be as characters in a story of a video game. I'm just saying, as long as the dev is not intentionally doing something that is actually offensive and hurtful to a certain demographic, they should not be held accountable and responsible and forced to do such a thing. It's just not fair to the dev. It's not fair to the players, and most of us, surprise, surprise, don't really care the race, gender, or religion of the character we're playing. I remember when Battlefield 5 came out. I was like, oh, great, another Battlefield in World War II. I saw that was a girl that they kept featuring in the announcement trailer and didn't give a crap. The only thing that really bothered me was the prosthetic arm. That did actually bother me. I mean, at first it didn't, but as I looked into it and read about it, it did bother me. And the only thing that actually bothered me about Battlefield 5, about having a woman featured in this game, is the way that a certain individual handled the situation. Other than that, I really didn't care. I was just excited about another World War II Battlefield game. The only time I had conflict of interest if I wanted to actually buy the game or not was, again, how it was handled. How the people that actually had legitimate complaints and concerns, not sexist or racist ones, about the game were being treated. That's the only time I decided I was considering possibly not buying the game. Now that individual is no longer with EA, from what I understand, and I'm hoping that's a sign of things to come. Whether or not I made a mistake by supporting them by buying the game, I don't know. We'll find that out. I actually have other issues why I didn't want to buy the game, but we'll cover that because I'm going to cover that in either another video with Battlefield 5 or, you know, a little sneak preview, maybe a podcast to come with a certain friend of mine. But I'm not going to get it too much of the way. And that's still in the works. It's still in the air. We don't know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen yet. But just keep that in mind. So I'll save that for a later talking point because I'm sure I'm going to be using that one a lot. But anyway, I think it was wrong of Americans because I do believe we have this bad issue of we only see beyond what's in America, and what we want in America has to apply to the rest of the world. Which I find ironic Because I remember when we started the war with Iraq and Afghanistan, it kind of was okay at the beginning, and then people started getting pissed off that we think we're there for the wrong reasons, or believed in conspiracies, or sorry, I just looked at how long this video is. Holy crap. Believe in conspiracies, or they just like, we're sick of being the world's police. Why do we have to clean up the world's mess? And in some ways, I agree to disagree, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But everybody threw a big fit about how the American military should stop being involved with other countries' problems, and we should stop being the world's police. But now that we're trying to be the world's PC police and meddling with other countries, yeah, okay, this game's released on an international scale, but game was released, like I said, as a tool to introduce the world to Bohemian/Czech Republic history and culture. And they did their research. They did the legwork. They did the hard work. It took years from the bake. And from what I heard, there's a studio of 80 people that worked on this game. And it's an amazing game. Yeah, it had bugs upon release. But, maybe EA and Bethesda and Ubisoft should take some notes, because they actually put effort and thought into this game, not worried about making this into a cash cow. Hopefully they stay true to that. I'm getting sick of these AAA titles coming out. I might start going more for companies like Warhorse Studio. They actually care about their product. Anyway, sorry, getting on a big tangent there. But we do not... I guarantee most of the people that had issues with Kingdom Come when it first was coming out didn't even know anything about 15th century Bohemia. Now, you're going to have the ones that probably going to involve them that did know about it. But I guarantee somebody says, what's Bohemia? They're going to be like, oh, you mean like Bohemian Rhapsody? Is that what you're talking about? I think that I know everything about that song. The song's great. No, that's not what they were talking about. They're talking about 15th century Bohemia. The Czech Republic. I guarantee some people I know nothing about the history or culture of the Czech Republic. I think it was part of the former Soviet Union. That might be the extent of most people's knowledge, and that's what bothers me. They try to come in and shove their noses into another person's history that they know absolutely nothing about. These people grew up here. I would like to think their schooling probably does a better job at teaching their nation's history than ours does, because it's kind of a joke of how our schooling system teaches our history. I'll say that for another rant. So I'm going to leave it at this. Leave them alone. I don't think they're racist. Now, yeah, he kind of got carried away with his response to everybody, but I support him. I would have too. How irrational you guys were being, and I'm talking about the ones that were attacking Warhorse and Kingdom Come for this. How irrational you be? I would have responded in kind. He actually probably handled it better than I would. And that's Daniel Varela. I'm sorry, man. If by some miracle you watch this video, I'm sorry for butchering your name. So that's enough. Yeah. So we as a whole were out of line, and I'm not going to apologize for America, because that's not me. That part of America is not me. So I'm not going to apologize for them. They need to learn to grow up and apologize for themselves and admit when they're wrong, but they're not going to. They're stuck in their own little world. They think they're all gonna save the world in their own little way, and they're like a certain individual I know in my personal life that even though they know they're wrong, they rather stick to their guns, not because they're convicted, but because they have conviction in what they believe, but because they hate being wrong and rather be a spoiled little brat and throw a fit than admit that they're wrong. So now, if you guys disagree with what I said, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. If you're going to be rational about it, I will debate it and talk about it with you. But please have facts to back your statement. If you're going to say they were out of line for not having people of color in this game. But you're going to have to really, really try hard, because I personally haven't been able to find anything. I've seen people try to give examples, but there were the examples they gave for other regions of medieval Europe that were nowhere close to this area that this game covers. So if you can find something that involves fairly close to this region that Kingdom Come takes place, then we'll talk. But anyway, enough about that. I guess the summary wrap up this game. The story is incredible. I love the history. I love history in general. There's some periods of history that I know more and better than others. Like I love World War II history, Civil War history would be my second favorite, with the Revolutionary War behind that. And yes, I am big on war history. Some call me warmonger or whatever you want to call me. It's just, I find it fascinating and interesting. It's just the life I was brought up in, and I'm not an advocate of war and think we should always be at war. I'm like Henry's dad. If we can avoid a conflict without violence, I would rather do that. But I also know there's a point where you can't pull back and you have to face it with a, like, I believe it was Roosevelt, speak softly and carry a big stick. Try to convince people to avoid a conflict, but if you can't, be ready to defend yourself, and that's what I'm all about. But yes, the history of this game is amazing. I love it. I can't wait to... It's caused me to research more of it. As you can see, the wiki articles. I know Wikipedia is not the best resource for things like this, but I just want a general overview of the history of Wenceslaus and Sigmundsson and King Charles. I know they kind of talk about it in this game as well, and they probably do get more in depth about it. They got a lot of codex entries you can read. I have yet to read. We'll probably cover them in our video. I might go a video where I read them one by one, see what you think. But this video is already like an hour long, so. But the art style, the music, the attention to detail, the realism they put in this game, I love everything about it. It is punishing at times, and it can be stressful, but I keep coming back to it. Every Tuesday is actually the only day of my stream that I'm actually legitimately super excited about doing, because it means I get to play Kingdom Come again. And you can take that as me, excuse me, being a huge fanboy or whatever, but it's the honest truth. I get really excited about it. I used to be super excited about getting into a Battlefield game. Now that Battlefield 5 is out and I've played a couple games of it, I have fun with it, but I don't get anywhere excited. I don't get excited about playing Battlefield 5. I have fun with it. I enjoy it. But a game has not got me excited about playing it as Kingdom Come has in a very long time. So I really appreciate it. So thank you, Warhorse Studios, for making this game. And then I'll wrap this up with every review video I do on this game. This game is not for everyone. And that's controversy aside, it is slow at points, and if you're not into story, you're on about the gameplay and action and fast paced, then this game wouldn't be for you. But if you could put that aside and enjoy a good story with some music and art style, the art style of this game, and the attention to detail the developers put in this game, their love for this game, then you'll love and appreciate this game too. But this is going to be my first ever 1 hour long video. I apologize. If you made it this far, thank you. You're incredible. You're amazing. And it also tells me I did a decent enough job to keep you entertained. Or maybe I pissed you off enough with what I had to say that you want to stick around more so you can rip me a new one in the comments or whatever. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I had a feeling it was going to be a long one because it dealt with the history, and there's a lot to this history, and I'm not even sure I did it justice. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll have timestamps in the description below, so that way you guys, if you only want to catch certain parts of the video, you don't have to watch the whole thing. If you watch the whole thing, thank you very much. It helps and supports my channel greatly and lets me know how I'm doing as a content creator. I'm working on it. I actually did my first script today, and you don't know how many times I did a record over of me talking on this game. It's a little bit ridiculous. But anyway, guys, have a good one. And if this video is uploaded before my stream tonight and you have to catch this video all the way through, I will be streaming Kingdom Come Deliverance tonight. So come on by and check it out. And you can talk about what you heard in this video or some other things you've seen in this game, or even about the controversy, and I'll be more than happy to, as long as we avoid anything offensive in respects of Warhorse Studios. And because I'm not out to offend people, I'm just here to talk about facts. So you guys have a good one. I appreciate it, and I will talk to you guys later and see you in the next one.